and welcome out to this episode of Outbreak Gamers. I'm your host, WebDave, David Anthony, real name, gamer tags, what's usually going by, and I'm here with the one and only OneBadMutha, OBM, Mother One, Abe. You got like
Yeah,
this,
Abe.
awesome. There we go. We got everything.
You got all the names there. Yep, yeah, we're
There we
good.
go. There we go. Sir, thank you so much for being here today. I want to make sure I get that out there first because I really appreciate your time. And you know, I'm not one that's like oh, I'll be on my podcast. Man, I am so flexible because I really do appreciate, the work that you do. Everybody has a life, and that you do make a little time for us today. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, man. Well, thanks for having me, and appreciate your flexibility. As you know, I'm out of town right now. That's why I got one of my suitcases right here, and,
Yeah.
and it's a little bit of a juggling act, and appreciate the flexibility. But yeah, it's a pleasure to be on, man.
Awesome, awesome. Like I said, I'm glad you're here. I am familiar with you, obviously. That with the Xbox Era podcast, there are times when you're not usually on camera there on that particular program, but you will pot up and speak up on occasion for certain things. I know you in the
I
past
think
you've
I,
done.
I think you're actually thinking about Jesse on that one. So I
Is
don't
that
know
what
if
it is?
yeah. That's not me in the background, but yeah, I am part of the team though. I am part of the Xbox Era team
Yep,
for a few years, and do co-host the Halo show. I have been on the main podcast. I just pop in as a guest sometimes,
yep. I've seen you do
and
that. Yep.
yeah, and in majority of the role there is the Halo podcast, and then also as a senior editor. So, just try to work with the team on some of the pieces that come through,
Right.
and then obviously have some of my own.
Well, and then you've also been a guest on several of Mr. Boomstick's programs. You've been a guest on several other of the bigger content providers have had you on, and I do enjoy your insight and your perspective, and I'm sure we'll be talking a little bit more about your current position and stance and your thoughts on Halo as it is right now. So
Yeah,
because
I
that's
can,
our own little podcast all by itself. But
yeah, yeah.
we'll talk a little about that here in a little bit. So I'd like to start things off with I guess what I guess is your education or your what kind of jobs have you had starting off in life? I mean, I started off working for my dad when I was 13, so
Yeah, I mean that's always an interesting thing, right? Like when we look at people in the podcasting and gaming and seeing how diverse the backgrounds are, and like that was one thing that kind of jumped out to me, kind of looking through your podcast, like listen, kind of hearing the different backgrounds. But for me, I've actually done a lot of different things in my life. I've been a little all over the place. I spent 10 years in sales. Had the last time I had a sales job, I was at a bank selling products. So eventually, I had little kids at the time, and I decided I needed to change to something that was a little less of a roller coaster, a little less relying on economy and factors that you had no control over. So, eventually I found myself managing in data and analytics, and that ended up happening by accident because I discovered that was an area that I was really passionate about in a job position that wasn't data and analytics. So kind of one thing led to another, and that's where I ended up. And it does somewhat relate to being a gamer all my life because for a long time, honestly, I was always just kind of looking for like what's my niche, in life. I
hmm
didn't really know where I was going to end up, and at one point, I was just like, oh, all right, I just need to find a job that I can be good at, and just work my butt off and make sure I can stay there. And
hmm
that's kind of where I was when I discovered it. But as somebody who's a gamer, if you like exploring, you like to figure things out, you like to do cool things, working with technology, all that stuff kind of came together in that area. And now, like, my work feels a little bit like a video game because it is like that. It is like, you just it takes a lot of the same sort of mindset or things that make me enjoy gaming do tie into it. So that's where I've ended up, and I've been doing that now for officially, I think about 6-7 years, and have a lot of fun with that.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. That's great. I know, like you said, you sometimes you just never know where life's going to take you. You know,
You never know, man. You
you
got to keep
really
an open
don't.
mind. Always,
Exactly.
that's one thing I've learned over time is that I don't know a damn thing.
Yeah,
and,
there you go.
and you think you know what you want to do in life. You think you know everything. And then I think the older I got, the more I realized I had no clue. And I just needed to stay open minded.
Right,
And, yeah, I mean, open minded to maybe change opinions, to learn a little bit, to maybe to be, you know, be willing to change plans,
right,
and you just never know where it's going to take you when you kind of take that view with everything.
right, right. Exactly. And sometimes opportunity just kind of falls in your lap, and and sometimes it's what you call, I guess, act of God, or your situation changes in life, and you're like, I got to make changes because of this. So I get it.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah, but I would say this for anybody that, whether they're in the content creation or their jobs, even if it feels like something falls in your lap, you got to be ready for it. And that's the one thing. There's a lot of people, those same opportunities come by and they're just never ready, right? So you
Right.
got to be ready. You got to be ready and willing to do something when the time comes.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree with that. That's I was done retail, I've done restaurants, all that kind of stuff, growing up, as it were. And
Yeah.
sometimes it took me a little longer to grow up in certain things. But and at some point I was like, I got lucky enough. I'd done some college radio and stuff, and then I ended up, working for a radio station, became a program director for 5 years
Oh, neat.
in a local rock radio station, which was a lot of fun. See like 500 concerts. I got tickets for every one of them, man. It was great. It was so awesome. But it doesn't pay very well. That's the thing that people like, no, no, not everybody's Howard Stern,
Right,
especially in a
right.
local market, even though it's
What?
100,000 water, so.
That's a challenge too, right? Like when you find
Mhm.
something that is a lot of fun, um, there's a chance some other people would find it fun too. So I really have
Yeah,
to find ways to stand out. But speaking of like growing up, I went through that phase of my life where I tried to grow up, and and I was a upstanding, serious adult, and after 2 weeks, I realized I was way overrated. So don't
amen.
enjoy life, man. It is short. So
Exactly, exactly. Got to have fun when you can. So,
yeah.
and one of the reasons why I kind of started um this podcast series, I would say, is that pandemic kind of hit hard. Obviously, we're
Yeah.
coming out of it pretty good now, thank goodness. But it for a while there was like, I wanted to to listen to some of these, to the people, the content creators out there, and it was like the staples I'd be gone through, like IGN and stuff, and they
Mm,
just I mean, nothing wrong with them. That's not what I'm saying. It's just that with the way they were talking, the things they were talking about didn't resonate with me. It's like, I don't agree with that at all, kind of thing. And then I started finding out, oh, there's a lot of other people out there that are in this,
mm-hmm.
then you run across the dealers and the Xbox era and, these other, great content, providers and stuff and their opinion stuff. And you're like, oh, okay, I like this, and I like this. These are the
Mm-hmm.
people I want to listen to. And after a while, I listen to them. I'm like, I want to know more about these people. Not necessarily, I don't want to get too personal, but I mean, like when, dealers talked about a few things, or Randall Thor 19 is a good example.
Mm-hmm.
And his, big fascination with books and how passionate he is about that. And, and then to find out it's one point in his life he was homeless. And it's like, wow, but he just
Right.
threw that on a podcast one day and it went on. I'm just like, wait, what? So, but that's the thing is you just, not everybody has, the story or whatever, but everybody
Right.
has something interesting about them. And I think it's cool to know about them. And then plus two, this gives an opportunity for more people to find out about you and the things you've
Mm-hmm.
done. And hopefully, people listen to the series, then they'll maybe give somebody else a listen that they maybe didn't know about. That's what
Right.
I'm trying to do.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point you bring up too, because it's not something I really think about a lot lately. But I feel like the world we kind of lived in, not even too long ago,
Hmm.
it did feel like we got to this point where it just felt like everything was so corporate, right? Every show you watch was just so corporate. Everything, taking yourself to work was, you had to kind of leave your personality behind.
Yep.
Even this stuff, like I would have never thrown myself on camera, but now it's like, this is who I am, man. This is what I like. this is what I do in my free time, and as long as you're doing a good job, that shouldn't really matter. But there was a time where I feel like where you would go to work and you just bring a different person there. You'd watch shows and again, yeah, nothing against anybody because you got to work in those circumstances. But sometimes it's like you wonder, are they really being their true selves or giving their real opinions? It's like always
Right.
so measured, and so you like to just I like this sort of the one good thing I feel like that's come out of let's say even the last few years is that people are starting to go, you know what, screw that, life is short.
Hmm.
Let's I'm going to start being me. I'm going to start doing the things I like. I'm going to figure out how to make that all work together, and instead of trying to fit in this little box that everybody else is trying to put me in. And so part of this is that, right? A lot of even doing this is really more of an escape. It's a self-expression. It's a creative, right? It's a way to kind of find yourself a little bit,
Strongly
and
agree with that. Yes, is
yeah,
good expression. A way to get sometimes what's inside of you out, and that's a good thing.
yeah, yeah, man. So yeah, no, good points, and that's my soapbox for that.
That's cool. That's cool. That's cool. Well, thanks, man. Well, let's kind of turn the conversation just a little bit into some gaming. Obviously, we're doing it's in the name. So let's I guess how did you get started in gaming? What was your first kind of experience, or then maybe some of the either consoles or what kind of gaming have you done?
Yeah, it's so interesting because when I think about gaming for me, it started off so early that it's almost to the point where my memory, those early years where your memory doesn't even where things don't stick, right? It's a lot of fuzziness with that. But I even remember going over, went over to Dad's friend's house, and I don't know if it was the kids or who had it, but somebody had a Pong machine. So I mean, we started talking
Yeah.
about like going back to the OG. I mean,
Boop.
and just being like, yeah, just being like amazed by that, or the little football things. Remember the little electronic, and you
I,
move the little
I
cursor up and
still
down.
have my Mattel electronic football sitting
Yes,
right over
man.
there. I love it.
So that's where it started, man. Little dots on a screen with me. And, I remember I was always fascinated by gaming and really just technology in general. But hanging out with my dad, going to the movies once, and I think we saw a Robotron arcade machine, and that was one of the
Hmm.
things that I really remember. Playing that with him and just going, "Wow, I want to keep doing this." Like, can we go back? That. And one day, my dad finally came home with a Atari 5200. This was about the time I think Atari was kind of starting to lose themselves in the industry, and
Hmm.
I think my dad was. We were not well off growing up. Like we went through some ups and downs, and financially, my dad, we were always really tight when I was younger. I was the oldest of four kids. We didn't get a lot of toys, a lot of fancy things. And but my dad got this Atari 5200. I think it was like on sale for 49.99 or something like that. Atari was basically giving them away,
Right.
and all the games we would ever get for that, I think we got six total, were all from the Kmart Blue Light Special bargain bin, and that's where we had to go. That's where we would go. We went mining every single time my parents went to the store.
Hmm.
It was like, I'm coming with you because I'm going to go dive into that bargain bin and try to find a $5 game. And we ended up finding like Defender, Space Invaders, like some of the classics that came
Oh
with
yeah.
Pac-Man. But that's where the console gaming started, and it's really, I was very young at that time, and it's been 4 decades at least of gaming for me, and really haven't stopped for too long since then.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess, like you said, that's kind of where you got started. But I mean, you eventually went on to some of the other consoles that are out there. I assume PlayStation, maybe Xbox. So I mean, did you like as you were like worked and stuff? Did you like buy your own systems, or how did how did you just grow into gaming from there?
I'll be honest, that's the reason I got a job.
Oh, there you go. I
was
gotta afford
was
my addiction.
Yeah, so because what it was, like I said, growing up, we didn't. There wasn't a lot of money. Basically, if I could get one game for my birthday and one for Christmas. Same with my younger brother, and that was it. Other than that,
Hmm.
we got sometimes you get lucky on in a rental. Usually, renting was a bit of a competition back then. So
Right.
anything good was going to be months before you could get that. But the next system, so Atari went kaput. Controllers, all that stuff. And I think it was, that was about the time the video game industry crashed. And I remember there was just one day again, we were back at Kmart and there was a demo of the NES with the Rob the Robot, the duck
Yep.
hunt gun. and me and my brother were just like, oh my God. Yeah, it was like it blew our minds. And that was like our obsession with the Nintendo Entertainment System was just like our addiction was terrible. My mom eventually, she basically put time limits on us, forced us to go outside. We'd get up in the middle of the night and play, and then run back to bed. Like before they would get up, and so yeah, it was Nintendo, but. For a long time, I would switch my platform of choice. So I went from Nintendo to Sega Genesis. That's when I got my think about the time I got my first job, and it
Nice.
was yeah, bringing that art because the other thing is we love the arcades. Arcades
Hmm.
always had better. Ninja Gaiden on the arcade was nothing like Ninja Gaiden on the NES, right?
Nope. Mm.
So when they were selling the Sega Genesis as bring the arcade home with you, that's when I became a Sega fanboy. And I remember my first job. I still remember to this day. I got a $73 in cash, paid under the table. I took it. Walked up to the drugstore to cash my check, and then I grabbed the bag of Skittles and Funyuns. And then when I walked up to the mall and bought my first video game myself, and that was the 16-bit era. So I moved on to
Yeah.
the Genesis. Eventually, I became a PC Master Race gamer. Um,
Cool.
yeah, for a lot of years, I still had the OG PlayStation and the 64, but I think during that time I was still more of a PC gamer, and I spent a lot of money on that.
Hmm.
And then that took me into the Xbox. The OG Xbox came out, and I remember that gosh, it was like maybe 2 weeks after the thing launched. There was a demo in a GameStop, and me and my now ex-wife were like looking around at rings at the time. And at the time we were living together, and I was supposed to be not buying anything. It was expected I was going to get a ring, right? And
Yep.
so I wasn't buying anything. No gaming, no PC upgrades, no consoles. I didn't buy the PS2 because I was in that stage. But man, I ran into the Halo demo, the Halo CE demo. It was
Hmm.
the Truth and Reconciliation level. It was that one level where it was at night you're in the with the where you start off with a sniper, and I just kind of playing that whole ambiance and everything. I went home that night just like couldn't get that out of my head, and lo and behold, wouldn't you know it, my now ex-wife comes home like a couple of days. I remember comes home from work, and I'm sitting there playing Halo CE on the TV, and I'm like, oh, guess what? Mom and Dad got me an early birthday present. So that was not a
They're the
good way to
best.
start. Yeah, I'm past statute of limitations, so hopefully that's not held against me. But that's
That's funny.
yeah, not a very mature thing to do, but that's kind of like how I started on the Xbox, and since
Yeah.
then I've had other things, but that's been the primary platform for the last couple decades.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, no, I'm right there with you, man. That Halo really that cooked a lot of people, especially, and especially with multiplayer and things like that. It was kind of like, whoa,
It was
what can we do? LAN parties? Oh my god, we'd pack up, consoles, TVs. We'd all like in the back room in the GameStop, and we like six TVs and all these consoles wired together and stuff. Play a couple hours after work. Yeah, we weren't supposed to, shh, but
well.
but
See,
that's
you,
what would
you're
happen.
yeah, you're lucky. See, back then the people around me were not gamers. I almost
Mm.
had to hide my habit because it wasn't cool back in my mid for whatever reason
Times
in
have
your mid
changed,
20
haven't they?
yeah, in your mid 20s you're too old for gaming. Back then, now it's like 20 years later, it's like
Hmm.
whatever. But it's like grow up. That's for kids. And um, so I didn't get a chance for that. So the online aspect ended up becoming a really big deal. And the original Xbox to this day, along with the Sega Genesis, so those are kind of like 1A and 1B, are still my two favorite platforms of all time. And part of the reason was just kind of, like that system was it was something else because coming from PC game, I remember the PS2 launch and everybody was kind of flipping out, going from they're going from OG PlayStation to PS2, and it's like,
Hmm.
wow, this is like another world, and look at these graphics. For me, like I was playing Half Life and System Shock 2, and so when I was looking at the bouncer, I'm like, it's not that big a deal. you
Right.
know? So I wasn't necessarily I didn't feel like I was missing out too much at that time. I was like, all
Hmm.
right, I'm just gonna stay here. But when I played that Halo demo, just like the like the physics, like the seeing like the bullet holes stay in the wall when you kill the Covenant, the bodies didn't disappear. If you remember back then,
Oh
that's what
yeah.
happened, right? Like in every game you played, like you kill the enemy and it would and automatically they disappear. The physics were really limited. Watching
Yep.
the elite jump out, like when I eventually started playing it myself, and seeing the elite jump out from behind the tree and then go back and duck under cover to get his shields, I'm like, what? Like all that stuff was even compared to the PC, it was ahead of its time. Like it was the AI, the physics were better than what was in Half Life, and that was the probably the first game that to me looked like it was above what was happening there. And then when they started talking about the hard drive and the online setup, which I didn't even play online on the PC, but just jumping on Xbox Live and hearing somebody talk about your mom in a voice mask was just something else. you know? But
Uh,
I met friends like immediately from that time that because that was back when everybody had their voice chat on, right? If you remember, like
oh
we
yeah.
all so when you didn't get a racist or an idiot, you
Right.
sometimes you found somebody who was really cool and you're like, you know what, I guess you're my friend now. And it's so funny because some of those guys that I met within the first few weeks of Xbox Live in 2002 has
Mm-hmm.
stayed friends. Since
Awesome.
then, we've gone from being, immature young men to
Immature
immature
young
older
adults.
men.
No, I'm just
older men.
kidding.
Yeah, that's basically it with kids. And
Yeah.
and so it's just kind of and if you remember back then, like I think people sometimes forget about this too. The world back then was, you spent a fortune for long distance calls and stuff. You remember
Oh
that?
yeah. Oh yeah.
You remember all the people that would try to sell you like the get rich quick if you get all your friends on this phone plan kind of thing
Yeah.
because you're spending over $100 a month just making long distance phone calls and all of that stuff. And so for me, like getting on there, and back then it was like what $50 a year. It's like I can talk to my best friend from high school and college, who's in another state. I can talk to him now online. I can
Mm-hmm.
talk to people in other countries, and I'm not getting a long distance bill. And this was like a social thing that was like, it's reducing those barriers, right? Like, and so I could just
Mm-hmm.
have friends and not worry about, well, you live too far to be my friend.
Yeah,
You're just a
exactly.
friend. It took those down. And that's why I still feel like that system really, even more than the 360, which I know I'm in the vast minority on that. Even more than the 360, that one really stands out to me as it was exciting. It was like a visionary type thing. The idea that
Yeah.
you could basically you jump online, you'd meet somebody, you'd add them to your friends list, and then they could somehow end up being a friend for decades. Is
Oh
was
yeah.
is just kind of crazy.
I agree with you. I really do. I think the original OG Xbox doesn't get as much credit sometimes as it deserves. Some of these people are like, oh, it did this is cool, but but the next system did this. I'm like, it had to start somewhere, and they really
Mm.
did it well. I'm fortunate enough because I was a GameStop manager. I was an Xbox Live beta tester, so I don't know if
Okay.
you ever look on Xbox Live when you see those little icons,
Yeah.
because that actually a program started in November as far as the official release, but mine already says 20 if you look at mine because 3 months beforehand I was a beta testing, so it was awesome. So I kind of like that too, that it that it does that. But yeah, but it was like they sent us the Mech Assault, and and a couple
Hmm.
of games like that to just to try out. Man, that was so much fun. I
Yeah, what
love
was
that.
that car game? Like I was
Project
day one.
Gotham.
No, it wasn't a great game. It was like there
Oh,
was the beta testers got. I think you had like NFL Fever, and then there was this like little arcade like cartoony. God, what was it? Was it started with a V or something? I can't remember. But it was.
yeah,
I do remember that stuff. I was day one, but some of my friends were definitely beta testers. So.
yeah, but it was like you said, it was easy, it was great, and that's one of the things I think still to this day, I think it's more fun to play with your friends as far as multiplayer on an
Hmm.
Xbox than it
Hmm.
is a PlayStation. I have a PlayStation, nothing against them. I've owned them all, but the online, getting people to get in the headsets and playing games and stuff, because for a while it came with them. You used to
Right.
get the headset with it when you got an Xbox, and it was like that made a huge difference, and it really,
Yeah.
I think, helped grow the online to what it is today, in my opinion. But
Well, and that's what's interesting. Like at the end of the day, I'm just a gamer. Like I
yeah,
choose I have a preference in the platform. I don't really care about the system. I'll talk about it, but I don't really care about system wars and
yeah, yeah,
console
I'm with you.
sales.
I'm with you.
But I will say the thing that really kind of solidified it to me, besides Halo and the offset thumbsticks from the controller, was really that culture, and I think that even feeds somewhat the even the influencer or the this stuff, right? Like because
Yeah.
that was part of the whole culture for the gamer culture on the Xbox, was that social thing. And that was like, it was always said back then, if you remember, like, hey, if you want to play single player games, you go to PlayStation. If you like multiplayer, you go to Xbox. And that was, and it
Yep.
wasn't just the multiplayer games. It kind of set up that social culture where even if you're playing single player games, just like, okay, who am I going to jump online and bullcrap with, and sometimes that's why these other even single player games, I think, why there's different single player games that resonate, because sometimes I don't, if I want to play a narrative driven thing, I have to kind of block off everybody and kind of be
Hmm.
offline and just be honed in on that. But if I want to chat with my friends and game with on a single player game, then I probably want to do something where I can just, it's more of a sandbox game, or I can just grind a little bit, or
Right.
and so I think those types of games, I think, resonated more because of the whole Xbox culture that they were able to build up, where it's like, yeah, jumping online is just, and putting on that headset was just a normal part of gaming at that time.
Yeah, and it definitely, I think it encouraged, like you said, people that are friends now that can continue to be your friends that you may not even be in the same state. I have several friends like that that
Hmm.
never met before in life, but every now and again they'll shoot me a message, or I'll shoot them a message, or hey, are you getting this? And then we'll get on like, hey, we're and then and they start ripping us and having a good, it's just it's fun, especially with people you play with. So I'm not a great gamer as far as my skill level. I enjoy it though.
Yeah,
That's what
I
I'm,
mean, and it doesn't matter. I mean, that's the fun thing about, like, even having a party of people in Halo. Well, it's like, well, yeah, let's bring in some of the people who aren't as good, because it helps in the matchmaking, give us some
yeah.
more fodder to shoot at. But like it is
That's
cool
what they
just to
were doing
have.
to me. I'm just kidding.
It's like, hey, Dave, come on,
Oh, come on, Dave.
but
We love having you. You're great.
you're you're doing all right.
Yeah. Why do you keep teabagging me? Oh, goodness. I'm just teasing. But yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah. So yeah, that's always yeah. The friends you end up making there, it doesn't feel very. I mean, they end up being real friends. You talk to
Hmm.
them about things when you're going through troubles. You talk to them about um, like even when you're going through trauma and stuff, and like sometimes you just gotta like talk to somebody, and
Yep.
that's who's around. It's like, I'm going to jump in this party, and I need to talk about what's going on. So it's
Yeah, it's awesome.
personal stuff even, but yeah, it's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm really excited that they're integrating the Discord
Hmm.
more and more. Not only, like you said, I may be talking to somebody, a friend of mine in Discord, or my son who lives across town. It's easier for us to get onto Discord. He could be
Hmm.
playing different games with his friends, but I can still talk to him about either whether it's family stuff or just things going on in his life that, I mean, he's 30 something now, but it's just it's nice to be able to do that. And the more integration that something like Discord can do, I think it's good because it's cross platform.
Hmm.
I think it'd be beneficial to, you know, to Nintendo if they integrated something like that into their system. That would be awesome.
It would
Maybe the
be.
next one, right?
Yeah, I'm hoping, and hopefully this is just the starting of it. But I am hoping that it is across all platforms and it becomes
Hmm.
the default way because it does. Like as we've grown up, generally now we don't have to. You got a little bit more money. You don't have to just choose one system. It'd be just
Right.
nice. It doesn't matter what publisher makes the thing you want to interact with at that day. You can still be on with your peeps, and you can
Hmm.
still talk to whoever, and just tearing those walls down. I'm looking forward to that. I think that's one of the last things that still fuels the silly console war stuff is
Right.
that people want to get their friends on they want everybody on the platform that they're on because there are those walls between that. And I think the more you can kind of tear down those, the less that is going to matter. It doesn't. I mean, I got friends now that I don't even ask, are you playing on the PC or the Xbox right now? Because they'll jump on the party chat app there. But if you can do that across the Nintendo and PlayStation, that would just be pretty amazing.
Yep. And more games are, you know, becoming, was it crossplay,
Hmm.
where, I'm on my Xbox, they're on a PC, somebody else is on a PlayStation, and we're all playing together. That they
Hmm.
still kick my ass, but we're having fun.
Well, at least if you get the PlayStation gamers in there with the symmetrical sticks, you have a better shot.
Aha! Now I know. There's a trick
that's
to it.
why
There you go.
that's why we want crossplay so we can beat up on the dual sense dual shock players.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Excellent. It's all coming together. I'm just kidding. Oh goodness. Goodness. Well, let's kind of turn this a little bit to, I guess, you talked about, now you're on camera and more comfortable,
Hmm.
with this. But I guess how did you get involved with the Xbox era? And I mean, how did you get involved with just, I guess, being in the community, as it were, on YouTube and whatever the platforms you're on? How did it all start for you?
Yeah, it is interesting because it wasn't something that I really ever geared up for. I remember it was 2017 when the Scorpio was launching, and there was the E3 prior to that.
Hmm.
And if you remember, that wasn't a great E3 2017. I think they ended on Anthem, and it was like
Hmm.
not much there. It's like you're launching a system, and I remember just being like really frustrated, like with the platform. Like, what? Maybe this isn't the thing anymore. Maybe they're not staying in gaming, and being frustrated. And I was like, how it is, like in sports, where when you want events or something like you go and look for people who vent for you, right?
Yep.
and so I was like out there on the YouTubes and looking for stuff, and I remember running into Rand's podcast, Rand and Jez. Well, actually, as they refer to it sometimes as Jez's podcast.
Yeah. That's funny.
About I found ILP, I found Dealer. These were like some of the first ones that I ever listened to, and it was different, right? It was different from, and then again, nothing against the IGN guys. I listened to them for years up to then.
Same here.
They're really really nice people over there, nice guys and girls over there. But just kind of seeing a little bit more of the kind of the raw like way people felt about stuff, and it's like, man, this used to be the innovative. The innovative, think outside the box, trying new things, platform, and what the heck. And so that's kind of like where I started listening to the stuff, and then I ended up getting on Reset Era to kind of vent a little bit, And back there, I don't know if you remember or if you've ever looked at Reset Era. If you want to talk bad about Xbox, you're invited. You're almost encouraged. So that's kind of where I started. Eventually, they turned it
That's funny.
around. Phil
Hmm.
got as soon as Phil got his promotion, I knew. Uh, it, I knew what was going to happen, and I started to become very bullish right away in late 2017, only months after that. But I was still on the site, and we were, we. If you, I don't know if you know John and Nick from XboxEra, they're the co-founders,
I know
but
who they are, but I have not
yeah,
ever personally talked to them.
okay, yeah. So
They
Nick
won't return
started
my
off.
messages. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Nick started out a Discord back then, and it was sort of a way to kind of like just get away from the reset era sort of I don't know culture sometimes, and
Right.
just it wasn't always balanced over there. So we did that, and had some other people that joined, and eventually, they started the podcast, and they're like, we're going to start a website. And I didn't think much about it at the time, but then John reached out at one day because he saw, some of my long-winded posts on there. And it's like, hey, you're pretty decent with words. Why don't you try to, write some stuff for us? So I dabbled in that for a little bit, and it wasn't like it wasn't like a major thing. It was just, again, a small little outlet. And one thing just kept building on another. Eventually, we decided we're going to start a podcast. And, well, no, we didn't say we're going to start a Halo podcast. The title you had me at Halo start. It was something I pushed. They used to do official threads on Reset Era, and I
Mhm.
pushed for the longest time. I said, "Hey, that should be our official title for this thread for the Xbox One," just because I thought it sounded really cool.
Yeah.
And they did it, and then that kind of came and went. And I was like, it's a really cool name for a podcast. So I was like, I just want to start any podcast with the name. And then it's like, well, let's do a Halo podcast. So we just gathered up whoever. I got on there, I think, initially with like my iPod, setup. I didn't have a mic, nothing. It was just,
Right.
let's just get a podcast going. And it was the most janky. it was,
Gotta start somewhere.
it was the most janky. Didn't know what the heck we were doing. It was, kind of a mess. I mean, if you go back and listen to the sound quality, it just sounded like some people were speaking in tunnels. Some people had echoes. It was just like, it just was all over the place. Didn't know what we were doing. But that was the time leading up to the launch of what we thought was going to be the launch of Halo Infinite in 2020, and we thought, hey, we can start to build this thing up towards that. Halo's going to come back. It's good. Microsoft is all in on gaming. Halo's not going to miss. We'll get into that, but like, hey, let's get in now and start trying to build something up. So that's how it started, as like a bi-weekly Halo podcast. And in the meantime, I started putting out some more articles. I remember I put out one day, and John's like, this is really good, and you need to do more. We need more of this stuff. And so I was just kind of winging it as sort of like a creative outlet. And eventually, like I said, one thing led to another, and it's like, all right, you can be like, he asked me to be senior editor, and I've
Nice.
still been up and down in terms of the output. It's doing things behind the scenes, as well as how it is with jobs and kids and all that stuff.
Yes, I do.
But yeah, so yeah, just over time is things that just sort of gradually Xbox Era, like the guys, there's some talented people there. We got a talented art guy named Predrag. He makes like everything I do looks like three times better just because he does a thumbnail for it, and,
That's funny.
and or does an opening for it, and
Mhm.
they got some talented guys, and it's fun because I don't have to. It's like almost like a sandbox there of things you can do. And we're right now we're working on an app for Game Pass stuff that called Day One. And it was an idea that I
That's
threw out there,
exciting.
but eventually that evolved into something else that was a better way of
Mhm.
executing it. But it's just like that whole aspect where you can just experiment, and have a way to talk about gaming, find out what works for you. And
Mhm.
yeah, man, so yeah, it's just right now it's just a fun thing to do, and I don't have to worry about everything. Like like right now you have to worry about the video, and
Right.
and the producing, and all those all those elements. I can just go like, what, I like to write, and I can narrate this. I'll give it to somebody who's better at the video stuff, or and somebody else to do the thumbnail, and it kind of comes together and it looks really good when that happens, and it's fun to do it that way. Eventually, I do want to start picking up some of the things that am watching them do and just do the whole thing. But
Hmm.
I mean, that's kind of how it is right now, and it works with my work and my work life, and with two kids,
Yeah,
that whole deal.
I'm right there with you. Yeah, yeah. No, you actually put out some of the videos though yourself, though, right? You've actually narrated or done some of the
I, I
videos.
I narrate them. So
Yeah.
I'll write them, I'll research them, narrate them. So I do everything up until that point, and then a lot of times I'll hand it off to like John or Jesse to like, hey, can you throw it together? Because they know that they're a lot better with that stuff and efficient with
Oh
it.
yeah, and
And
that's not no, that's not easy. It's actually kind of probably nice that you're able to, you can do this part, then they can do
yeah,
their part, and then put it together. And it's like it's a masterpiece. I mean, really,
yeah,
let's be
yeah,
honest. So
yeah. So it's fun to kind of like bring everybody together like that. So it's kind of the team approach a bit. People do their own stuff too, but um, yeah, I can focus on, like I said, what I'm currently good at. But the video stuff is the next area that I do have some ideas
hmm
to
nice,
ideas to get a little bit more take a little bit more of my creativity and bring it
right?
into that aspect.
Well, that's great. That's great. Well, you're definitely a creative guy, and we enjoy everything that you've done so far. So just keep it up, man. I think it's great.
Oh, thanks.
No worries, man. No worries. And just I guess a little kudos to the actual show itself. I mean, gosh, they had was it 100th episode. They had Phil Spencer on.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. I
wow.
mean, yeah, that's what's kind of crazy. But I mean, the whole Xbox era, the team, and
In the
John
brand,
and
I
Nick's.
guess.
Yeah, it's like it started because we got sick of recent era. It's like, let's spin off our own like Discord, and then it's like, all right, well, let's spin off our own forums,
Hmm.
because people were like leaving there or getting banned all the time because of whatever. And so it's like, hey, let's kind of just do that. And it's just the kind of one thing just kept building, and a lot of it just has to do with the fact that there was a few people that were really passionate and had brought different talents, and it just seems like it keeps building on themselves. So like John and Nick do a really great job with the podcast, and
Right.
uh, you know, um, I guess Nick just sits there and looks pretty, and then John brings all the good ideas.
I mean, let's be honest. We
I
can
gotta
tell
say
it like it
something.
really is.
I gotta say something good about Nick.
Oh,
So
it's
yeah,
so
he, yeah,
funny.
he sits there and
So
looks
funny.
pretty for the. I
Goodness. Oh man.
don't know.
So the other show though, the
You had
um
me at Halo.
yeah. So I
Yes,
mean, you talked about you had me at hello. Oh, you had me at hello. And
Halo.
obviously it's Halo, but I know, but
Yeah,
it's such a cool
yeah.
little play. It's really it's quite creative, I think. So I mean, I guess how is the show going now because of the big turmoil? And I mean, does it give you more
hmm
to talk about, or is it kind of like like, ooh, a short episode this week, or do you like just
Well,
get into it?
no, that's a good question, because there have been episodes like that. It's like I really like over the last few months where it's like I really don't want to do this week's show because
Right.
and initially when we started it, it was all optimistic, positive.
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
when I for gaming for me has always been a positive release. It's not. I'm
Hmm.
not really. And I understand that people are just, people have different feelings. I'm not like judging anybody who's like super negative on
Right.
where that game's been, but like that wasn't why I started it. I was like, I wasn't thinking, you know what, I'm going to be the guy, the clickbait guy that's going to throw out these thumbnails with a tier of Bonnie Ross, and it's the 343 kill Halo, and just make that my living. It was
Right.
really, this is my favorite franchise. It's the thing that brought me to this platform. It's where I made a lot of friends. It has like a lot of nostalgia, and kind of bringing all that together. And I was very optimistic, and I will get into it, but I still am optimistic about its future, despite the fact it definitely has hit a low point recently. But
Right.
that was the reason we started it. And even our early episodes were really about like what we were looking forward to, what was our favorite things. And then, I did think after a while, I was like, oh man, I didn't really think of a long term strategy here, because how are you going to talk about one game, have a podcast for just one game that's running bi weekly? It just seemed like there was always something to talk about for whatever reason,
Hmm.
once things got going, even after Craig Face. So we had to deal with all that stuff. And then, then it kind of came back up again. We had some more hope again. It was delayed that whole year, which made, again, it's like, how are we going to get through this year? And it seemed
Right.
like there was always some news to talk about. But yeah, the last few months have been, difficult from that standpoint, because, I'm somebody that doesn't want to, again, like, just lean into what the mob is saying. But at the same time, I have to be genuine, and I can't just go there
Right.
and go, oh, it's fine, everything's all right. No, there's things that started to creep up that were like, how did you guys do this? How did a company that was all in on gaming, that's a $2 trillion company that has now been investing for, what, 4 years?
Hmm.
How were you not ready? How did you not understand the industry enough, understand the live service enough, not build the foundation for
Hmm.
this release when you did? So that was a frustrating thing, and it did get me started asking questions, and kind of going behind the scenes. There's a lot of people that have left 343, and some of them will talk. So,
Yeah.
but what's been kind of interesting, and I heard Jez even say this last week on Xbox Two. He's like, I it's like, even when I'm trying to like do research and figure out what's going on, I'm getting different stories from everybody, and I think that's kind of right. I've gathered different things as well, and from different perspectives, like who's at fault, and how did it get here, and you can start to piece it together, because I put myself in like a corporate situation where, if you're on the ground floor, you see what you don't see everything. You're not in the back rooms. You don't know at the high level what those conversations look like. I can tell you, I'm probably less of an insider working for my company than somebody who's maybe an investor that really pays attention to everything
Hmm.
the executives are saying and tries to read into that. So when I started doing that, I started stepping back and looking at okay, well, what's going on here? I even looked back at past Bonnie Ross interviews, listened to Josh Holm interviews when he left 343, and started piecing that together with things that have both leaked and are unofficial, off record, from people that have left. It's like, okay, I got a better idea now. It was, and at the end of the day, it is a situation that it didn't happen overnight. It was, and it wasn't one person. I think that's kind of like where what I gathered from this. It was,
Hmm.
this was a studio that went through a lot of different leadership changes at Microsoft, and um, a lot of different obstacles as a result of policies and things like that. And I think it wasn't just one big thing. It was a perfect storm of a lot of things, with COVID, I think, eventually breaking its back, in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So the good news, though, I do see a big upside right now with the
Yeah.
game. We see Cyberpunk came back. If Cyberpunk can come back, anything
Anything
can
can
come
come
back.
back.
Yeah, I mean, Cyberpunk looked like it was the most dead and buried game of all time, and it's a single player game. So there's definitely a lot of good things, and there's a lot of talent that was at 343, and who did put together a lot of great aspects for even what's now, despite all its problems, there is some really good foundational pieces there. Some exciting things and even innovative things when it comes to what they're doing with this forge. And I do see a lot of upside. I do see a comeback story that's, we'll just say possible, because you can't really
Hmm.
ever tell the future. Just because it's
Right.
possible doesn't mean it will happen. But a lot of things are very possible. So I am. So it's been difficult, but I do see things, because I have to be honest, and being honest, it's not always positive, but
Right.
it is something that I think can can have a good tail to it. So I'm still looking forward to this. I think right now it's going to be a little bit slower, but I do see some potential for a lot of content to be generated on even a bi-weekly or monthly basis to talk about with the Halo franchise soon.
Agreed, thoroughly agreed. I tell you, the campaign when it came out, the initial just single player campaign was absolutely to me stunning. It was fun, got you really into the story. I enjoyed it. I played it 2 or 3 times, different levels, just to just because like oh, I'll do it on legendary because I want to go through it again. You know, because you think oh that's all you got. Well, and the multiplayer when it first came out, man, it
Hmm.
was awesome. And it was just right there, and everybody was in it. And then I get it. People want change and growth, and if it's supposed to be a service game, you need more content or whatever.
Mm.
But I do like you were alluding to that the Forge really has the opportunity to I wouldn't say save it, but I say keep it rejuvenated and keep it where people are going to give them time to get their act together. Hopefully if it's a few years to really get to their promises, and things that they were the seasons and stuff that they wanted to get come out and the things that they want to happen. And I'm hoping that Forge and people that have created the stuff we've seen already. I mean, some of that stuff's absolutely amazing, and hopefully you'll be able to, there'll be some kind of like either vote system or something to where you can like go online and download that person's thing and all your friends can jump in and play that level they've created. I think that would be a big help in continuing the franchise at this point.
Yeah, David, you bring up some good points because 343 has had struggles in the past with the Halo 4's multiplayer, Halo 5 single player, but those are generally from game design.
Mhm.
Game design, the tone, the identity. That's where a lot of the complaints came. It was really never a technical thing with those particular games. Um, Infinite comes out, it solves both, right? From at least in my opinion, I think from the
Mhm.
let's say from the majority of people that were reviewing it or were talking about it at the time of its release, the game design of the campaign was a lot of fun. People wanted more, but people were generally the loop, the moment to moment. People were very high on where it had arrived from that standpoint.
Mhm.
From the multiplayer, same thing. They really figured out like how do we meld the classic, the identity of the classics with modern expectations. With people people really don't want to play something that slow anymore. So it's like I think they've kind of figured out how to thread that needle. I wouldn't say Forge is. I know saved has been kind of the word used a lot. I think Forge offers it's a wild card.
Right.
It is an opportunity that it could go either way. It could be something that's just it's just kind of there and it's just there for the people that would have been there anyways and
Mhm.
add something to the game but doesn't really change the perception or what the game is overall if they don't really capitalize on the opportunity. But I also think and I've said this to I was on Ames's podcast a couple weeks ago and we talked about this and I feel like I'm a bit more bullish on the upside of what this is because we know gaming's changed a lot since Halo was the king, right? Since
Oh yeah.
2007, gaming's arena shooters aren't that anymore. Arena shooters have a niche. It's a very loyal niche, and I think that gives Halo a floor that they're probably not going to go underneath as long as they can get the performance up, back up to par of expectations.
Mhm.
They'll keep that arena niche and kind of hover in that top 20 on the Xbox and whatever. But I think for the things that have changed, if you just look around the industry, it's not just live service and battle royale. I know people talk about that a lot, but I also the other really really big thing, and I think this is even more significant with the new generations if they want to expand Halo. It is the Roblox, it is the Minecraft, it is Fortnite builder mode, it is kids getting on an iPad and building stuff and then sharing it with their friends, right?
Yep.
And so I don't know if 343 had that foresight, if they have that leadership today, but I will say that they have we've seen some of the stuff that leaked. John from XboxEra is one of the 12 OG console members for their Forge console,
Yeah, it's
and
awesome.
what the stuff that we're just kind of finding out about what is possible, um, how much more user friendly it is for people. So you don't have to be somebody that's ever done game design. I don't know if it's going to be as easy as like a Roblox or a Minecraft to get into,
Mm,
but it's not going to be as cumbersome as let's say intimidating as previous Halos to do something really cool in. And so I am I'm very interested to see where this goes. So I would say it's not necessarily it's going to save Halo, but it is a wild card. And if 343 can be visionaries with this or find visionaries with this, it could not just save Halo, it could reinvent Halo. I think that's the thing. And it could be something that is as big as, as those as like Roblox sold for 40 billion.
wow,
Why
yeah.
can't why can't Halo do the same thing when it has
Mm,
better fundamental gameplay, when it has better looking assets, and they're going to continue to evolve that stuff. So that's kind of where I'm at. So I'm still very, very optimistic in the potential, but it's still right now it is all about it's like drafting a rookie that hasn't played a game in the pros.
yep.
Right, that like NBA teams will draft somebody. Remember when they used to draft them straight from high school? It's like
Oh, yeah.
this guy can jump right out the gym. He can do things you never seen, but we don't know if he knows how to play basketball yet. So
Right, exactly.
I feel like Forge
Dribble.
is like so I feel like Forge is like one of those. It's like that rookie. It is that one that has all the upside in the world, but it also has if it's not supported the right way, it may be a wasted opportunity. So hopefully, with some of the things that we've seen, and I'm not a Bonnie Ross hater. I think she's done a lot for the franchise, but I
Right.
think it's good to bring in sometimes new visionaries, especially as
Can't hurt.
yeah, new industry's changed a lot in the last 10 years, and expectations and opportunities have changed a lot. So bringing in new visionaries that maybe have some ideas of how to capitalize on that is can offer some hope, right, going forward.
Right. Well, and then as these, I guess, Forge gets closer to being released, and we get to see some of the innovative levels that get designed, and some of the new management team gets in place, and they get their feet set, as it were, to get to move the game forward. I think that'll give you a lot more to talk about on your podcast, which will be
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, well,
So,
especially with John being kind of knee deep. Like, I don't know if you know this, but the first showcase they did a couple weeks ago,
mhm.
it was actually the map he built that they showed
Oh,
off.
cool.
Yeah, the last one they showed off that cyberpunky the night level with the little neon lights and everything in it. That
Right.
was John's map. So so him with him
Very
being
cool.
so hopefully we're gonna leverage John
I was gonna say,
and
so
his
you're interviewing with me? Yeah, thanks, buddy.
You're showing up a lot more, John. Tell you lately on the Halo podcast.
That's nice. That's very nice. Well,
Yep.
dude, this is awesome. Thank you so much for being here today. As we kind of wrap things up, I always kind of like to kind of get I guess your feel for like what is a video game that's maybe that's coming out that that you're most looking forward to, and it can be multiples. I've had a lot of people give me more than one answer because they're like, "Oh, I want this, I want this." That's fine too, and it can be anything.
Yeah, that's a good question because I mean, there's a lot of stuff down the road that has all kinds of crazy potential, especially with the
Hmm.
new generation. But generally, I think I've learned, and you maybe feel the same way, Dave, after many, many years of being a gamer and going through the hype cycles of things that
Oh yeah,
I kind of let the hype, like, I can be somewhat excited for something, but I generally don't let the hype get too crazy until it gets close and I have a good idea. So I would have to look on the near horizon, and the obvious answer right now is Starfield,
nice,
because it is going to be a next gen only game. I do think it's we heard that we know that Bethesda rebuilt that engine, and we expect that it's going to, be able to do things that previous Bethesda open world games didn't do. And one of the most memorable games on the OG Xbox was Morrowind, and
well, agreed.
you know, just that just getting out and just kind of being overwhelmed by the world. And unlike I think a lot of today's open world games, I almost have open world fatigue and for the most part. But I feel like Bethesda games are different because you don't necessarily feel like you have to go do everything and check every icon. You just go and you do whatever you want for how many ever hours you want,
Mm-hmm.
and you can spend just a few hours in a town screwing around. And it's
Yep.
just so I'm really excited to see where that game goes, and see what hopefully that they've evolved that formula. That it seems like when they started new generations. I remember Morrowind, and then one of the biggest wow moments of the 360 was stepping out into the world of Oblivion. If you remember getting out of that dungeon and you just get into that
Mm-hmm.
open world and it's like whoa. So that wow moment. So I'm going to stay optimistic on this, that Todd Howard and his team, who've been thinking about this game for damn near a decade, been given the time. Microsoft, I don't think is going to do that. We need to get this game out,
Mm-hmm.
thing that maybe they did with Halo. Hopefully, that's the last one for that type of
Right.
thing. Yeah, and just I think that this is something where that I think it's going to have the time to cook and kind of fulfill that vision. And if that means gets delayed until later in the year or even until the next year, I think it will. It will be able to get there. So I'm pretty excited about this one.
Yeah, I agree with you right there. I'm right with you. It's something looking very forward to, and I would much rather them take their time and get it right than to rush it and be disappointed. I'm like I'm sure with you, you were like, can't wait to get it this year, can't wait to get it this year, and it was like, oh, we're pushing off, we're changing the release date, we're pushing off. There was like crushing disappointment, but then in the long run when the game comes out and it's like near perfection, then we're going to be like, holy shit.
Right.
You'll probably forget all about it being delayed if it's amazing. And that's what
Yep.
I'm hoping for.
Yep. Yeah, I think they do. I think the game design's down. It's just polishing. So polish the heck out of it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Let's eventually Microsoft and their first party will get off just this schneid, and the dam will break,
Right.
and hopefully when it does, it's going to break with a bunch of polished games, and that's going to be the start of this new identity that really they started investing in 4 years ago.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. One bad mother, Abe.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for being on here today, man. I greatly appreciate your time, and it's been great getting to know more about you and sell your brand. Let people know where they can find you and where they can reach you, and what shows you're on and when they air, that kind of thing would be great.
Yeah, well, no, first of all, again, appreciate it, Dave, and I appreciate you thinking of me and reaching out. And it's been fun sitting here reminiscing a little bit and talking about, I guess, myself.
Yeah, this
but,
is
you
good.
know, if people want to find me, the first you can look for me on Twitter. The handles at Mutha_1, MUTHA_ONE. And from there, you'll know if I'm on a podcast. I do pop up on a lot of podcasts.
Hmm.
So I think we met on Boom's podcast,
We
right?
did.
So I'm on there quite a bit, but I'm on others as well. So look for me on Twitter to find out where I'm going to be. I will tweet it out. Also, I will tweet out any articles I write there. So if you want to basically go to Twitter
There
and
you go.
I'll let you find me from there. But otherwise, if they want to check us out, like go to XboxEra.com. We do have forums. They are Xbox forums, but
Hmm.
everybody's invited as long as you're not a troll. And
Be
they've
nice.
those yeah, those have really picked up over the last couple of years. So it's been a growing community there. Something I think from the Xbox gamer standpoint hasn't been we haven't really had since Team Xbox went under, at the beginning of the
Right.
Xbox One generation. So,
Hmm.
so check us out. And other than that, man, yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, again, thank you for being on here. I really appreciate it. We're gonna have all the links to everything you've done and all the website and everything like that. It's gonna be in the description of this below, so everybody can check out that and get to know more about Abe One Bad Mother. I love it. I love it. We never got to where you got your name. Can you give us that real quick? How did you get One Bad Mother?
I was a young brat. I thought I was a badass. So
There you go.
obviously, now I'm one old mother, and I've definitely lost some skills. I'm definitely
I love
not.
it.
I definitely in 20 years, I'm not as slick as I used to be. So it is kind of funny using that gamer tag everywhere still. But
Yeah.
it's been my gamer tag since day one, and
Nice.
I didn't even have to put a number after it, so I was
There you
real easy
go.
on that.
There you go. That's I like my gamer tag, WebDave. I got lucky. I was like, this is cool. And then I got it on PlayStation and I got it on Nintendo. So got it everywhere. So yeah. So dude, again, thank you so much for being here. And thanks everybody for joining us today on Outbreak Gamers. You can find us at outbreakpodcast.com if you want more episodes. Or also just click the link below. There's a whole set list of other content creators and more coming all the time. We're also available on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio. And thanks everybody for joining us here at Outbreak Gamers.